afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our design industry Q&A live stream as part of our Art and Design Degree Show 2020. This is our second live stream for the week, but let me first start by introducing myself. I'm Karishma, and I work in the events department of the Faculty of Arts, Design and Humanities here at DMU. I'll be your host for today. So firstly, thank you to our panel members for joining us, and thank you to everyone who's watching us now or maybe watching us later. We're joined today by our alumni and industry guests who will be talking about their own experiences, their journeys, and maybe give you some advice and hints and tips as well. We're also going to be answering your questions towards the end of the session, the end of the live stream. So please leave us a comment or a question, and we'll do our best in getting around to them and answering that towards the end as well. So firstly, I'd like to start with introducing everyone we have on the panel today. We've got Lindsay Rendell, who's the director at Rendell & Wright Interior Design Studio. We've also got Everdeen with us, interior designer at Stantec International. Everdeen joining us international from Dubai as we speak. And we've got Ryan, who's design manager at Above SE. We've got Dan Salford, owner of Dimensional Design. And we've got Katie, who's a designer maker, who is here with us as well. So thank you, everyone, for joining us, or as you're joining us right now, and thank you also to our panel members. Just to remind everyone, if you have just joined us, to please leave your comments and questions in the chat function, and we'll do our best in answering them towards the end of the session. So I think we should dive straight in, and maybe let's go around the panel to give you an opportunity to talk about your job role, your experiences, your journey, so everyone can get to know you a little bit better. Shall we first start with maybe Lindsay? Maybe we'll start with you first.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Lindsay Rendell, and I currently run a design business in Suffolk with my business partner, Helen Wright, and our design business is Rendell & Wright. We set it up in 2006, having worked together previously at a firm in London called Cameron Broome. And my journey to interior design was not a sort of straight line, really. I started off after doing my A-levels by doing a foundation course in art and design in Suffolk. And throughout that experience, I loved all of the sort of media that we worked in, and it was really diverse. And from that, I went on to study printed and woven textiles at the Surrey Institute of Art and Design, which I thoroughly enjoyed and expected to sort of go on to do fabric design and have a career in textiles. I soon realised that there weren't that many jobs in textiles, sort of designing, and also that the salaries weren't really compatible with having a lifestyle in London and living in London, which is what I wanted to do. So I then went on and worked for Designers Guild on the King's Road in their showroom, which was sort of an education, really, and a bit of an eye-opener, and my first introduction to working life in London, which is quite different to living out in the sticks. And I didn't really gel with the company. I don't think it was the right place for me long term. So pretty much the first week there, I set myself you've got to be here at least 6 months to have that on your CV. And I started looking for other things whilst learning as much as I possibly could whilst I was there. And I found it quite frustrating that you're designing from one company's product. So it was there was no sort of personality of mine that went into the design. It was very on point that it was a Designers Guild design, which I found a little bit frustrating, but probably because my background was designing textiles myself. So from there, I went on to work for Cameron Broome, and I ran their showroom. And that was a fantastic education for me. It was an introduction to all of the different fabric houses, all the products that are on the market, furnishing companies, furniture, lighting, and I learned so much while I was there. I went on to sort of, as I started running the showroom, then I went on to sort of be a junior designer, and they paid for me to do the KLC School of Interior Design whilst working for them, which was fantastic. And over the course of the time that I was there, we worked on hotel projects, we worked on high-end residential project, and lots of sort of big developments on the river. So I had a sort of fast track, quite intense learning curve, really, but a brilliant grounding for then running my business. And it was whilst working at Cameron Broome that I met Helen, my business partner. She was a project manager there, and we shared an office, and we sort of, why aren't we doing this for ourselves? So at the point of time that we both wanted to start a family, Helen and her husband moved out to Suffolk, and we set up Rendell and Wright, and we haven't looked back really. It was a hard first few years with juggling young children and projects that were all over the UK. Our first 2 projects were in Scotland and in Devon, so we were sort of flying up to Scotland or driving down to Devon each week, which was hard work. But 14 years on, and we've got a fantastic base of clients in the sort of east of England. We still work wherever required, as long as the job is large enough, but the core of our work is now in the east of England and London, and we work across the board with sort of contracts, hotel work, spas. I've got an appointment tomorrow to go and look at a big office block that we're going to be doing. We do all of the show homes for a big developer in East Anglia called Hopkins Homes, and we do currently, between August and Christmas, we'll have fitted out 7 properties for them, and we do a range of residential work as well as that, and that can range from sort of 12-bedroom property, full renovation, to new build, to extensions. So we have quite a sort of diverse group of work that we do, and we work with a lot of craftspeople. We do a lot of bespoke joinery and art pieces, and a lot of furniture that we make is bespoke for each project. So it's really interesting, and every day is different. All our clients are different, and because of that, it's always exciting and never boring.
Great, thank you so much for that, Lindsay. If anyone's got any questions, particularly that you may want to ask Lindsay, whether that's, I guess, about running your own business or starting your own business, I'm sure this would be a good opportunity to ask us, or even maybe just about juggling lots of things. So please, just reminding everyone to send in your comments and your questions from anything that you hear you'd like to ask the panel members. Please let us know, and we'll do our best in answering them towards the end of the session. So thank you again, Lindsay, for that. And I'd like to now go to Everdeen to let us know a little bit about, your journey experiences and what you've been doing.
Perfect. Hi, everyone. So my name is Everdeen. I'm practicing interior designer, specifically in the healthcare sector. It has been a journey to get into this sector, I must be honest with you. I graduated from, of course, the Montfort University, I'm the class of 2012. I started in 2009, so I'm the class of 2012. And under the leadership of Stuart Wright, as long as all the other tutors, I successfully finished my interior design degree and passed with a first class. Initially, I realized pretty early on as an interior designer, or let's say practicing within De Montfort University, that I wanted to be a healthcare interior designer. And I at first I felt, to be honest, I didn't categorize it. I hadn't put it into any box. I just knew that I wanted to design more for the well-being of people, merely for people's health, and to help them on their journey of healing and so on and so forth. And this came from a very personal area of mine, where my brother actually suffers with paranoid schizophrenia. And I just believe, sorry, I blanked out, healing an individual on their journey, whether it be through mental illness or cancer or any area of health. And so I graduated knowing that I wanted to work in the area of healthcare. However, it was just very difficult for me to get into the field. So I would say that I've been up and down. I went into food and beverage, just wanting to get myself out there as an interior designer, gain the skills, be within the industry. So I was working within the sector of food and beverage for quite a long time, and then moved into workplace. And, I explored different sectors, but I always knew that I wanted to go into healthcare. So my journey to actually get to Dubai I would just say that I just decided, you know what, if I want to do this, I'm going to do it. So I booked a ticket, came out to Dubai with my CV and my portfolio. I had a list of all the companies that I wanted to approach. And that's what I did. I got into a cab, got into a taxi, went to every company, mostly international companies. And I successfully landed a job in Stantec, which is actually a Canadian company, and they have many offices internationally. So yeah, I'm currently working in Stantec in Dubai, of course enjoying the weather. And yeah, it has been a journey in itself. I've appreciated the journey for me to get here, because I've realized that it's something I really wanted, and I'm happy that I'm finally here. I must say that along the journey, I did have a lot of bumps and a lot of successes, such as I did my MA, my master's in a course called service design, and that course is based on user experience. So, you know, just to upskill myself, I thought if I'm going to work within the healthcare industry, I need to know how to really engage with people and how to really design for people and their core needs. And of course, if you're designing for patients, if you're designing for other key stakeholders, we need to understand what are their needs, how can we cater to them, how can we design a clinic room that doesn't look very sterile, and you know. So so I engaged in that, and I guess that's pretty much where I am at the moment. So thank you.
Thank you, Evelyne. That's really nice to hear. I love the fact that you just kind of flew off to Dubai, got in a cab, and just started, you know, handing out your CVs. That's you know, that takes a lot of courage. So no, that's good to know. And it's really nice to also hear about, you know, kind of taking an MA in service design, making it more kind of like you knew what you wanted to do and kind of, you know, went through with that. So that's good to know. Anyone who's just joined us or watching us right now live, so please do leave your comments or questions for any of the panel members. Anything you're hearing about their experiences, you want to know more about, want some advice and tips, please do let us know, and we'll do our best in answering them as well. Okay, so thank you, Evelyne, for that. And let's move over now let's go to Ryan to tell us a little bit about, you know, being a design manager, and also just what your journey and your experiences have been so far.
Thank you. Yeah, my name's Ryan. I'm originally from Leicester, and I'm now the design manager of a company called Above Agency in Stockholm, Sweden. I graduated quite a long time ago, so 2008, right in the middle of the financial crisis. And I studied, I finished with a BA in product design. And I had, basically from that point, I was very fortunate to have a couple of job offers, one to stay in Leicestershire and one to go to Hong Kong. So I took the opportunity in Hong Kong, and I went to work for a company called VTech, which is basically a telecommunications company. So I spent kind of 2.5 years designing either home telephones, business telephones, or kind of like call center headsets and headphones. And I worked on a few British designers with a lot of South Korean designers who were incredibly skilled. So I kind of had a little bit of catching up to do, I would say, with kind of my CAD and sketching technique to catch up with those guys and girls. But I learned really a lot in that first few years of my career. And I was very fortunate that with Hong Kong being on the border to Shenzhen, most of the work that we did when it went to mass manufacturing, we got to go to the factories and actually sit there with the engineers in the factories and work alongside them and really start to understand that side of the process. So that was kind of invaluable experience that I still use even today. After that, I actually moved to Philips Design, so the big consumer electronics company, also in Hong Kong. With it being a big organization, you have a lot of kind of product units. So I was actually working on headphones, earphones, and the speaker category. And that was kind of the stage of my career where I basically evolved into a senior designer and started to take on a lot more responsibility. So instead of designing kind of like one product at a time, I actually started to design portfolios of products around certain themes. And I think there's a lot of really big learnings in that experience, in that It's a huge multinational company, a lot of company politics that you need to navigate as a creative to make sure that you can sell your ideas in successfully into those organizations. After that was kind of like 5 years. I decided I really wanted to work for a design consultancy. At that point, I'd only ever worked in-house, and I was kind of craving diversity. I wanted to not get stuck into, kind of individual product domains for so many years at a time. So I took a job at a company called Design Partners in Dublin. And that really kind of tipped everything on its head a little bit. So doing much kind of shorter, quicker, faster paced projects. Not always from initial sketch to mass manufacture, sometimes just kind of snippets of the process. But I got to work with a lot of different brands like Logitech, Ultimate Ears, did a lot of gaming products, did some home security and smart home connected devices as well. And then I had, after that, a very brief stint freelancing. Actually, I was looking for a job. So while I was doing that, I was also freelancing at the same time. And I ended up where I am now, which is in Sweden, and I work for Above. So very different company again. It's still a design consultancy or an innovation agency. But we're split in quite a different way, I would say, to a lot of other design consultancies. So we do physical and digital design, and we're also design and technology. So we have the ability to, do the implementation as well as the very early creative phases, which is super interesting for me to get to work with people from, different creative sectors, but also different engineering sectors as well, and kind of dovetail your thinking to create better ideas and solutions. And I worked with a lot of different brands. So obviously some local brands like IKEA, Bang & Olufsen in Copenhagen, as well as kind of Izettle, Facebook, Sennheiser, a lot of different brands here, which is super nice. Still kind of seeking out that diversity that I was craving after leaving Southeast Asia. And my role now, so design manager, what does that mean? Well, I lead a lot of projects. That's kind of inherent with being a bit more senior, but also I'm responsible for developing the creative team here as well. So I have a mix of industrial designers and user experience designers, which is super interesting. So a little bit broader than what maybe my degree was in the very beginning. Yeah, that's a little bit about me. Super happy to still be involved with De Montfort University after 12 years. So happy to talk to you all.
Thank you for that, Ryan. Really nice to hear about kind of your journey about traveling and moving, working abroad elsewhere. It's a bit like Everdeen there. And I suppose, yeah, kind of, you're leading on other projects and stuff. So if anyone's got any particular questions to know about, what it's like working in the industry, in different parts of it, then please do send your questions in, not just for Ryan, but for any of our panel members, and we'll do our best in getting around to answering them for you. So thank you again, Ryan, for that. And I'd like to now speak to Dan to hear a little bit about, your journey and experiences and anything that you could share with people watching us right now.
So hi, yeah, my journey compared to everybody else so far is really not as exciting. I haven't been away anywhere for any kind of work. I've just finished my master's degree, so I'm still at the beginning of having my own business and my design journey, really. If I sort of go back to where it began, I didn't really know what I wanted to do when I left school, and I knew I liked designing stuff. So I thought, what do I enjoy most? And because it was that, I ended up doing product design at Montfort University. That was a 4-year course, a BSc course. I had a year out at a placement, and this design consultancy I was at, I don't think it really suited me because I'm not really sure why. It's just something I just learned about myself that wasn't kind of the environment I enjoyed. And from that, I sort of thought to myself, well, what do I like? And I really like working at university. I really like making my own stuff and showing what I can do. And so from that placement, although it didn't turn out to be an enjoyable placement, I got a great deal of knowledge and experience. And so when I went into my final year, I had a 3D printer, and I was making stuff for my projects. I was making stuff for university and for other people, and I was really enjoying doing that. And so I thought to myself, well, could I do that myself and then sell that on to people in some way? And so as the time went on through the final year, I ended up graduating, and then I thought, well, it's a big wide world now, what do I do? And so I decided to create my own design business where I retail home decor products, homeware, gifts, just random accessories, things I make, because it's not so much about the end product, it's more about the actual making, saying I've done that, this is me, I enjoy it, you know, my passion, I want to share my passion and enjoyment with everybody else. And so that's been running for 2 or 3 years now. But alongside that, my journey is also involved working at university, and one of my end goals is to be a lecturer if I can alongside my business, so have half and half really. And so the journey from that, from the past 2 years, is that I had a year out for health reasons and to develop my business to a stage where I was happy. So when I came back to do my master's, which was my choice in product design, I thought, well, I could use half that time to develop my business further and half that time to get more experience within university, get to know the lecturers and the staff a bit more, and just offer to help out where I can. And so yesterday I completed my final part of work, so that's my degree over now. I've started work a few months ago, actually working at DMU in one of the workshops, and I help out around the facilities, which is good because it means I still get to be involved with the university. From time to time I do a bit of lecturing, a bit of teaching to students and that, so I like to get involved. And of course I have my own business, and I'm not ashamed to admit that my business, whilst I was doing my master's, took sort of like a back step. It was a bit neglected really, because I was so focused on learning that I didn't want to sacrifice, you know, that knowledge in terms of doing my business and not doing it correctly. And so over the past year, I've been doing a lot of business modules, a bit of learning, a lot of developing research. And so now when I've graduated, I've got this time to reevaluate what I'm doing, really develop it and take it forward to the next level alongside working at university. Of course, that's not all I do. I also work on a farm as well. So I'm juggling 3 or 4 things at once. So it's quite difficult. And one of the things I would say from where I've got to now and where I've come from is that hard work always pays off. And although, you know, sometimes you might think, oh, I've got a lot to do, I can't bother doing it now. Really, if you do it and you get on with it and you're prepared to put those hours and that time in, you can really, you know, progress quite far, quite quickly. Because from the start of my master's to the end, where I've ended up now, in terms of all the things I've done, I'm surprised I managed to squeeze all that in. Because one of my biggest achievements so far is I came 3rd place in one of the RSA Design Awards earlier this year, and that was something I never thought I could do because I didn't think I was capable of it. But juggling that amongst everything else really made me think, made me realize what I can do. And that's sort of the drive to carry on with my business and develop it further, because if I enjoy it and I like it, then there's no reason why I shouldn't do that. But of course, with university lecturing, I like to give back to people as well, and that's sort of why I want to get into that. So really, to sum it up, my journey is a bit mixed. It wasn't really planned, it sort of just happened and came out of nowhere really. But it sort of really nicely led into, sort of made a nice path, a nice journey. So I'm sort of onwards and upwards now. So hopefully develop my business and get into more teaching as soon as possible, really.
Great, thank you so much for that, Dan. Firstly, congratulations for finishing your final piece of work yesterday, which I'm sure was yeah, probably a lot of hard work. But yeah, I suppose a bit different to kind of, you know, what Ryan was saying there. You know, you've gone down a different path after studying, you know, and possibly looking into teaching and stuff. And I'm sure many people are watching us now, or whether later, you know, may be in a similar position where they're not quite sure what to do or kind of what different avenues to go down in the industry. So it's nice to get your perspective in there and kind of, you know, open it up a little bit broader. So thank you. And definitely I'll take on board as well. Hard work does pay off. So I can take a bit of that advice on board as well. So thanks for that again. So, okay, so we'll go on to last but not the least, Katie, who's a designer maker, and hear a little bit about your journey and what you're doing.
Hello. So yeah, I'm Katie, and I make very quirky, handmade, well, out of porcelain, so the jugs, cups. So basically I'm a designer maker. I make all the products myself, but I just want to sort of, I probably should go back to the very beginning. I was always creative as a child. I was always the kid that would be sitting colouring and drawing and trying to make things out of blue Peter style. I'm always making things out of the washing up liquid bottle. and I just loved it. But obviously through school, I was sort of encouraged to go down the more academic route. I always loved art. It was always a passion of mine. I was always drawing, but I was always sort of encouraged to do English and history and subjects like that. So I went and did A-levels, which I liked, and I did carry on with my art. But it got to the end of A-levels, obviously deciding, I always knew I wanted to go to university. Trying to decide what it was I wanted to do. My head was saying I probably should do an English degree. You know, I was good at English, but then I was like, but what am I going to do at the end of that? And always niggling in the background was just the pure love and passion for art and drawing and making, really. So I was like, I did a bit of research, and I found a foundation course at Stanford College, which was amazing. When I looked at that, and I thought, that sounds really interesting. So although going against even my own mum, who wanted me to sort of do an English degree or something, I thought, no, I'm going to at least just try this foundation course, which was literally a year of drawing, painting, graphics, photography, you name it. We literally tried a bit of everything. Absolutely loved it. So that was like English gone out the window. I definitely 100% wanted to find a degree course that could offer that art making side. And then that's when I stumbled upon the design crafts course at DMU, and it sounded basically like a carry on from this foundation course that I'd absolutely loved. And so I applied, and so that was back in 2006, I think. 3-year course, and again, absolutely loved my my degree course. So it was ceramics, it was metals, we did hot glass, we did jewelry, printmaking, everything, and absolutely loved it. And I was always the student, again, my love of drawing crept through there, and I'm a bit of a collector as well, so I was always drawing from my collections of cups and jugs and sort of like vintage pieces that I've collected over the years, and some that were my grandma's. And my textile, I was under Jane Prosser, who's sort of more textile-y. She was my sort of mentor more. And she was always like, these are beautiful, these drawings and the colours and the collage. Why don't you go into ceramics and make these cups and jugs forms? And I hadn't actually made that connection before. I'd done a little bit of clay at school, and in my induction into ceramics in the first year, I did enjoy it, but I hadn't made that connection in my head. So off I went to ceramics with the help of the lovely technicians, and then honestly I was trying to work out how I could create my own ceramic forms. So off I trotted, got some clay out, and I managed to, with the help of technicians and tutors in the ceramic workshops, I managed to well, first of all, I made like paper molds of my jugs and cups that I was drawing, and then I transferred those into plaster molds, which enabled me to slip cast, so I could get some nice quirky shapes of jugs and cups out from that. And then my next challenge was to think, how am I going to get this lovely surface pattern onto my pieces that I'd made? And I also found that's where my love of porcelain came from, because the brown clay that you get at school and that. And I found this beautiful porcelain, which you can work quite thinly with, and it really sort of suited my style. So, and I managed to create through hand painting and application of different glazes, I managed to find a technique that I could get this vintage 1950s, 60s sort of feel onto my ceramics. And that's where sort of KTR and ceramics was born, really, in my degree collection. So I graduated in 2009 with a vast array of jugs and cups and a lovely collection of ceramics that I've put my heart and my soul into. They're every bit me, and it was just amazing the response that I got from them. I wasn't really sort of expecting it, because I knew that I loved them, and everyone was coming to like, wow, these are amazing. They wanted to buy it, and I was like, what? I hadn't even sort of, I thought further than my degree show at the time. And obviously then we went on to, we got invited to go to New Designers. So I took my, off I trotted in the collection, packed up off to London with the gang, and exhibited there. And again, I had this amazing response to these lovely pieces that I'd created. And I got invitations to exhibitions, to sort of, even I had a card company approach me wanting to do some little illustrations with them, and it was just mind-blowing. I don't think I could take it all in, but I wanted to sort of keep in the momentum of this, and people bought them, which again was just absolutely amazing. So I was in this little bubble of, I've got to carry on, because I hadn't thought sort of much further than my degree. It was all in the back of my mind, but what am I going to do with this design crafts degree? It was always sort of there, but I was so busy, creating, and the joy of the making just took hold of me, that I hadn't even thought of it. And then, so I was like, so it got to the end of the degree year, and New Designers, I was like, but what am I going to do? And I knew that passion was so deep for making, that I thought, I've just got to at least, again, try to create and to keep making these lovely jugs and cups. And then obviously I had these sort of like exhibition requests from galleries and shops that I had to sort of fulfill. So that was like the driving force that I needed to make me carry on and pursue it. But then chatting to tutors and things, and I was lucky in the fact that about that time when I graduated, they were on the design crafts course, they were just introducing an artist in residence scheme that we could apply for, and one of the tutors suggested that I do that. So that was going back to uni for 2000, so the year after I graduated, 2010. And that enabled me to carry on making, to support, and to, be in the workshops, and I could chat and share experiences with the students, which they like. So it was that bit like Dan was saying, it's that sort of giving back element to it as well. But meanwhile, still creating, still having access to workshops, because obviously that's a big thing. I knew that somehow I was going to have to. When I left completely, I was sort of going to be on my own, and I was like, how am I going to create? So I knew that I was going to have to set up my own little studio. So I went back to Rutland, which is, it's not too from my home sort of town where I was from, and thought, I'm going to have to, alongside being artist in resident, I'm going to have to sort of quiz the technicians and see what sort of setup was needed, and get advice on kilns and things, so that I could sort of set up my studio in that time that I was still at DMU, so I could sort of still tap into sort of the resources that I needed. So yeah, about 2010, I set up my own studio, and ever since then I've obviously developed my product ranges, but the fundamental aspects are still the same, and it's kept me sort of, obviously it's a lot of hard work, and I do sometimes now I do like a little bit of teaching on the side and workshops, and sort of giving that bit back to people, and sort of teaching people about the joy of clay and getting them sort of hooked onto it as well. But I still do sort of exhibition work. I do sort of big sort of design shows and trade fairs to sort of get my work out there, and it's been a lot of hard work, but I am sort of in quite a few galleries and little sort of independent shop across the country, and even in a couple in Europe now as well. So yeah, it's been quite a journey. I'm lucky to say that obviously I'm still doing something I absolutely love, and I'm glad I didn't listen to the people that said, "Oh no, do an English degree," because I just feel lucky every day that I'm doing something that I absolutely love, really. So yeah.
Thank you so much
Okay.
for that, Katie. I think it's really nice to hear that, there might be many people watching us now or maybe later who are, looking to come to DMU to do design crafts. And it's really nice that things kind of developed for you as you were on that journey. And yeah, pleased that you didn't do the English degree and, stuck with kind of what you wanted to do, which is, again, what many people watching may be in that position. And, and it's quite nice, obviously, we're doing these live streams as part of Degree Show. So many of our class of 2020 would, or students, current students at some point will be exhibiting in the Degree Show as well, and it's things can really move on from there and move further, which kind of happened in the case for you. So that's really inspirational to hear how things have worked out. So thank you for that. Just to remind everyone again, if you've got any specific questions for our panelists from what you've heard so far about their journeys, in the case of Katie setting up a studio, maybe you might have a question about that, to get some hints and tips, please do send those in, and we'll do our best in answering them for you. And speaking of Degree Show, just to remind everyone as well, our Degree Show Instagram account is live at the moment, and there's a lot of new content, work from different courses from across our art, design, architecture, fashion and textiles, going up all through this week, and it'll be open. The account will be open for a little while longer for you to go back and have a look as well. So follow the Instagram account. It's DMU Degree Show, and you can be kept up to date as things go live this week. So yeah, please do that. I think this will be a good time to kind of go into Q&As while we've got, the last 20 minutes or so left for the live stream to really answer the questions that are coming in so far, and just to dig a little bit deeper into some of the things you've mentioned. So, okay, I think we'll go to our first question in this case, and it's a question for Everdeen. So thank you for sending that in, Meg. Why did you choose to go to Dubai in particular, and did you find that the UK didn't have any jobs for healthcare in interior design? I'm also interested in the healthcare sector. So yeah, I'll let Everdeen answer that for you.
Yeah, sure. Hi, Meg. Well, that's a kind of interesting question because, to be very honest with you, it was a personal and just I combined it with a thing. Whereas, first of all, I wanted to work internationally. I just wanted to work outside of the UK just to be exposed to a different environment, a different way of working, a different collaborating with a diverse group of people. And the reason I chose Dubai is, first of all, I just love it in Dubai. I'm going to be very honest with you. I love it in Dubai. I love the weather. I was coming to Dubai quite often. I would say once every year, and prior to coming here. And that was just, sometimes it was spontaneous. Sometimes there was a motive behind coming, like maybe a family member was getting wedded or something like that, or birthdays and stuff. But by coming, I slowly kind of embracing what it was like out here, and it, a light bulb came up with me, and I was like, oh, I could actually do this working internationally, or living somewhere internationally. And I did do my initial research into the healthcare market within Dubai, and I even came to an exhibition show. It was a buildings healthcare innovation show. This was probably in 2018. I came out here, and I was really talking to industry leaders out here, gaining my insight, understanding the market, looking at the different companies that were out here. So hence why I mentioned that I had a list of companies that I was interested in. From coming to that exhibition show, I was more exposed to what was happening out here. And knowing that it's not just in Dubai, but obviously serving different GCC areas such as, Abu Dhabi, which is only an hour away. And I've done numerous projects in Abu Dhabi so far, healthcare projects, of course, in Abu Dhabi, or Saudi Arabia, or Bahrain, and, just different areas. So I guess it's just, it was just more a personal decision for me to come out to Dubai, explore the market, really, dig my feet in or dig my hands in. I don't know what the saying really is, but yeah, and just see what I can gain from out here, because I believe it's Ryan, please correct me if I'm wrong, who went out to Hong Kong. I believe he can agree with me in saying that working, that it's always good to get kind of international exposure, and just to learn how other people work. And I think it's based on self-growth as well, and just your personality, and how your personality grows, and how you adapt to different people, different culture, which is another story in itself, because it was quite challenging for me, having been brought up in the UK, like born and brought up in the UK, and only had studied in the UK, to come out to a different region entirely, and having to adapt to not only the workplace culture changing, but the culture around me, and being in a region that is not as liberal as the UK, but there is still a sense of freedom. And just to piggyback on this as well, I've also been fortunate enough to now be a member of the Inclusion and Diversity Board across the Middle East, as a mental health first aider for our region. So I guess a lot of benefits have come out from me just kind of taking that initial step and saying, okay, I'm just going to cast my net out wide and just go out to a place that I've never been before, lived before, shall I say. So yeah.
Great, thank you so much for that, Everdeen. And actually, because you'd mentioned Ryan there, Ryan, you went international as well. From a different perspective, is there anything that you could probably add to that question?
Yeah, I mean, the reason I ended up in Hong Kong was completely unintentional, to be very honest, purely opportunity based. And I think that it's such a great experience. Like, one, learning, as Everdeen said, like, it's a very different pace, incredibly fast paced in Southeast Asia, in industrial design in particular. Learning so much about a different culture, and also reflecting upon my own, which was also very interesting to understand a little bit more about, where I'm from and why I do certain things the way that I do. So that was also like really valuable experience for me personally. But then I think since that point, now I've kind of got the bug, and I haven't really been back to the UK to work for a very long time. So I think I'm kind of excited by exploring new places, working with people from different parts of the world, and kind of learning how other people do things different to the UK, and also bringing, my foundational learning or my cultural background of approaching things in like the British design way, and sort of fusing those things together to have, well, a bit more fun, but also come up with sort of super interesting solutions. So for me, it's yeah, I got the bug, and it's difficult to get out of continually kind of working internationally.
Great, thank you so much for that, Dan, and sorry, Ryan, to hear a different perspective on that. So, okay, let's go on to our second question in that case. And okay, so it's a general question, so happy for anyone to take this, but I think I might know. Okay, so did any of you guys study abroad or do a placement year? And which do you think is more beneficial for interior design, studying abroad or taking a placement year? I know, Dan, you'd mentioned you did a placement, didn't you? I'm not quite specific to interior design, but maybe you want to say something about, doing a placement in the first part of the question.
Yeah, so mine was in product design, but in terms of doing a placement in general, it's really good exposure for yourself to see the industry. It's great experience, and it doesn't matter if you get on well, if you really enjoy it, or if you don't, you're always going to learn a great deal from it. And in a way, it's sort of like a free apprenticeship, because you've got the security of knowing you're going back to university afterwards, but you also get that year out to learn somewhere else. So if you ever get offered or the opportunity to do one, I would never say don't do it. Mine was interesting. I wasn't wanting to go into a consultancy. I wanted to go into more of a bigger place where you just focus on one thing. And it was interesting because it wasn't what I was expecting. It was quite eye-opening. In some ways I loved it, in some ways I didn't. And I always thought as long as I can get through it and I learn a lot from it, then it was not a wasted opportunity, and it certainly wasn't. There's highs, there's lows, but I've learned so much from it. It's given me such a good basis going forward that I don't think it matters what course you do it in. If you can say, look, I've got a degree and I've also got work experience, which is so hard these days, particularly with what's going on. It's so hard to get work experience. So the placement is probably one of the most invaluable things I've done over the past few years, because it's really set me off. It's given me the experience of knowing what industry's like. I've learned a lot about what I'm good at, a lot about myself, what I like and what I enjoy. I've met quite a few people from it, and all the other people who've done placements as well share, from what I know on my course, share a similar view that it doesn't matter if you enjoy it or you don't, the experience you come from it is so useful going forwards that I would just never say no to it personally.
Great, thank you so much for that. And Lindsay, maybe I'd like to come to you from your point of view in terms of studying abroad or taking a placement for an interior design student, perhaps, if you'd like to say something about that.
Sure. I think regardless of whether you're studying abroad or traveling or taking a work placement, I think when somebody comes to us to look for employment, or if we're looking through CVs, I think the more life experience you have, quite honestly, the better you are as a candidate, whether it is through a work placement or through traveling or through reading and things like that. The more experience you have in all walks of life, the better a designer you're going to be. So the more you interact with people from different nationalities, seeing different customs, seeing how people live, seeing how people of different ages live, because from experience, people who are in their 20s have a completely different lifestyle and use a space differently to somebody that's in their 40s, 50s, 90s, and any age really. So the more experience you have with people, the more experience you have with traveling, culture, the more interest you have with engineering. In design, there's engineering, regardless of whether you're a product designer or an interior designer. There are so many sort of practical skills you have to bring together to make yourself a good designer, whether you're designing the sort of aesthetics of something or how it's going to function. So learn all the time. My advice would be soak up learning experiences wherever you are. Look to nature, look to industry, look to mechanics, look to, you can be on a ferry and the sort of mechanics of something working there might be brought into a pulley system you bring into something that you're doing in a residential house or a hotel. You never stop learning. And I think showing an employer that you are interested in people is really, really key. And yes, the more work experience you have, the better. The more you've traveled, the better. But really, it's about noticing how people live, how people work, and how people communicate with each other, and bringing all of that influence and interest into your design work. And I think, be interesting is really important. Be interested and be interesting.
Great, thank you so much for that input from all our panel members. I think that's really good advice, and probably just in general for whatever phase you're in as a student or coming in, then I'm sure this will be useful for them later. Okay, let's go on to our next question. In this case, we've got another one in. Okay, so what advice do you have for someone new to the industry? That's quite a good question, which I'm sure many of our graduates are in this position right now. So I'd like to go to Katie first to get your opinion on that as a maker designer. What advice would you have for someone new to the industry?
Sure. So when I first started, I think the best bit of advice was just to stick at it. I pretty much, it sounds a bit bad to say, but I pretty much said yes to sort of every opportunity that came my way, really. So it was a little exhibition, you know. So I sort of started small. So I'd do these sort of little exhibitions, say yes to those, and then that sometimes would lead to nothing. But then sometimes I had another gallery or someone else that would come along to me and say, "Oh, I loved seeing your work in there. Have you thought about having it in another gallery?" And it's sort of like Ross goes on from there, really. And also do sort of research. For me, that was doing research into sort of trade fairs and where I'd see my work fitting. A trade show would give you sort of good exposure to and show you how to sort of make contacts in galleries and shops and things. So yeah, that would be my big advice: just sort of stick at it and say yes to as much as you can, because like the guys were saying, it's all sort of exposure and would help to sort of build up your practice and sort of get your name out there, really.
Great, thank you so much. That's good advice. That's quite a nice kind of generic question that could appeal to anyone watching right now. Is there anyone else perhaps would want to say something about, you know, us getting on this question? Lindsay, perhaps you might have anything you would like to say?
Yeah, I was just going to say, you know, don't be afraid to ask questions. I think it's really intimidating sometimes when you start in a new company, or, you know, you're in a position that you possibly aren't really sure about. And as a graduate, you know a lot, you've learned an awful lot, but there's an awful lot more to learn. And don't be afraid to say, can you please explain that to me? Or what does this abbreviation stand for? Because I don't quite understand. And certainly when we've got people working with us that are sort of junior designers or fresh out of university, the more questions they ask, the better place they're going to be on the next project to answer questions without needing additional help. And I'd much rather explain something from the beginning and for them to have a real, proper and true understanding of what they're doing, than to sort of muddle their way through thinking, I don't know what I'm doing, but I don't really want to admit I don't know what I'm doing. It's better just to be open and to be confidently asking for additional advice. And that goes for me, even when I'm doing a design for somebody. You know, you're given a brief, but sometimes the brief can be interpreted in different ways, and actually to sort of get a real understanding of what your client wants will make my design better from the outset. So ask questions and, you know, read as much as you can, but don't be afraid to say, I'm not quite sure I know what this is. And that, I think, is a good stand to have.
Thank you so much. That's, again, really good advice for someone entering new into the industry now. Okay, so we've got time for a few more questions. So let's go on to our next question in that case. Let's have a look. Was there a career setback you faced when you later realised was an advantage? Again, quite a nice question to go to. So maybe I'll go to Dan in this case. Was there, could you maybe take that one for us?
Yeah, so this goes back to my placement, really, when I had my first experience of a design-led career. And the major setback I faced was realizing there's a lot I don't know. Because university is great, it teaches you loads of stuff, but there's always more to learn. And this is quite good advice, really. When you come out of university, you don't realize how much there is still to learn. And so when I did this placement year, I made mistakes. Sometimes I got so lost, thought, I don't understand why we're doing this. Why is it done that way? And whilst at that time, it was quite daunting to think, oh no, there's a lot I don't know. Maybe I'm not good enough. Maybe I need to do better. On reflection, and particularly into my final year at university, it made me think, oh wait, hang on, that's good, because I can learn from that. And because I didn't know how to do that, and I experienced how to do it wrong, and someone taught me how to do it, I learned a lot more from that. And so going forwards from both my academic career and being a student, and being having my own business, running my own design studio, it's made me learn a lot, because back then I didn't really know what I was doing with some 3D printing things. And I was like, oh, I saw this machine, I was really out of my depth. I thought, I don't know what I'm doing, I'm not confident with this. I made some mistakes, I had to ask for help. And then through that, I really got into it, and I started learning more about it, and then I started enjoying it. I was thought, oh, back on reflection, if I hadn't made those mistakes, and if I wasn't set back by not knowing enough, and by making a few, messes here and there and that, I wouldn't have got set on this trajectory to really get into additive manufacturing, really get into 3D printing, get into doing my business, into helping out students at university. So really, I would say that, some of the best setbacks and ways to learn are by making mistakes and not being afraid, as other people have said, to own up and say, like, I don't know what I'm doing, I need a bit of help, because anything is experience, and experience is everything. So, the more you can ask, the more you can learn, no matter whether that's through success or failure. It's great because setbacks would always make you stronger in the long run. So, yeah.
Sorry, I just realised I was mute while I was talking there. But thank you. What I was saying was thank you, Dan, for your insight on that question as well. Okay, so I think we've got time for one last question to wrap up the 1 hour live stream we've got here. So what do you love most about your job? Oh, that's quite a nice question to end on, actually. Ryan, perhaps you might be able to tell us a little bit about what do you love most about your job?
I think for me, this has changed a lot over the years. Very early on, there's like a big friction point between design and engineering and creatives and kind of implementers. And that has really gone now. And it's something that I really love about working at Above in particular, is learning to kind of leverage other people's skill sets and their knowledge and their strengths, and kind of fusing that with design to come up with ideas that you could never really imagine before. So that was something that I didn't necessarily get very early on in my career. There was this kind of battle between design and engineering. But what I really love now is actually sitting down with an engineer and talking through ideas very, very early on, and actually getting their input and get their creative input as well as their engineering input. So, whether it's a hardware or software engineer, I really, really love working with those guys and girls and trying to learn a little bit more about what they do, and also understanding how that can kind of supercharge the creative process as well. So that's something that that I really love about my role and my job today.
Great, thank you so much. I think it's a really nice question. Is there any of our other panel members might want to say a little bit about what they love about their job?
I was going to say I love the diversity in my job. I love problem solving. I love working with people. I find people fascinating, and the way people live, and to be able to create environments that people can enjoy, I find immensely pleasurable. And every job is different, and every day is different, and that sort of it's a team spirit of working, coming together to problem solve and then leave something in a better state than it is before you started, whether it be an older property or a new development, and to be able to make a difference in somebody's lifestyle. I find that really, really enjoyable and pleasing. So yeah, I feel very privileged.
Thank you so much. I'm actually going to go around the panel and ask everybody what they love about their job, because I think it's really nice for people watching, if they're going into similar fields and industries that you're in, to really understand, what are some of the nice highlights and what you love. Dan, what do you kind of, you want to go into lecturing, or what you're doing right now with the universities and your own business? What do you love most about it?
Partly being able to do what I love, what I enjoy, and also being able to give something back. So for my business, I love being able to do 3D printing. It's one of my biggest passions. I love being my own boss and getting to decide what happens. Although there are obviously some negatives to being self-employed, like no financial security, but it's really fun. And there's a lot of problems you have to tackle, which I really enjoy, all the problem solving. And then when it comes to lecturing, I like helping people. I like giving something back to the university. I like getting to meet new people, talking about things I enjoy. And it's just, it's just the passion and the interest that comes with it, because that's sort of why you do these things at university and placements and that, because you enjoy it. And if you can have a career in that, then, and you enjoy it, then yeah, that's everything. So certainly the enjoyment is what I love most about it.
Thank you so much for that. And Katie, what do you love most about being a designer maker?
So there's two things really. The first thing that I love is I'm always making something different, but I absolutely love it when like someone will come to me and they'll say, I love this jug, but could you make me something really special, whether that's be for like a wedding gift or an anniversary, because I can I've got a technique where I can put photos fired into the ceramics as well and create something really special and unique and for the person. And then the second thing that I absolutely love working for myself, I can make it flexible because I've recently got a young family, so I can make, you know, my job fit around them at nap times, and yeah, it's just brilliant that it's got that flexibility as well.
Thank you so much. Yeah, different perspectives from everyone about what they love. And last but not the least, Everdeen, don't say Dubai. That's what you love about your job. But no, let us know what you love about the job.
Well, first and foremost, I would say it's the ability to co-create with people, to learn from people, because I would say that I, as an individual, of course, we lack skills in different areas, but just to simply have people that you can lean on and you can learn from. And in regards to co-creating, is always also with our clients, and having to engage with our clients and having them engage in the process of design. I feel like that's very fulfilling, because not only are you doing, or am I doing my job, but I'm also serving the needs of the client themselves, and every stakeholder that is attached to them, whether it be the patients, as I mentioned before, or whether it be patient service users, whether it's you know, so on and so forth. So I think that's one thing that I really like about, or shall I say love about my job. And another thing is seeing the end product, because going through the process of design can have a lot of ups and downs. There's times where you may feel quite insecure. You may feel like you can't execute what you want to execute as well as what the client wants. But just coming to the end, and coming to the end of a project with the team that you have worked so closely with, I think that's quite a fulfilling place to be. And it just gives you the confidence to persevere as well. Like, you know, if you can do this project, you can do another project, you can do another project. So, and you know, and also to actually see the end product is an amazing fulfillment. So yeah, I would say that's what I really enjoy about my job. I really love about my job, and yeah, that's it.
Thank you so much. I think a lot of people watching, you know, from the design backgrounds, I think will take away something from everything that you all have said that will be beneficial to everybody. So yeah, I think this is a good place to wrap up. So thank you to everybody who's been watching us live or may watch us later. But thank you also to the panel members for being here and sharing, you know, some of your personal stories and journeys and the advice and tips that you've given everybody. I hope, you know, hearing from our industry panel has helped anyone who has been watching us. And lastly, I'd just like to say, please don't forget to follow the Instagram Degree Show account to look at work from class of 2020. It's at DMU Degree Show on Instagram. We'll be open for a little bit longer for you to go back and have a look. We're releasing new work every day this week, and we've got 2 of the live streams this week as part of the Degree Show, one tomorrow and one on Thursday at 2 p.m. as well. So please do join in for those. Yeah, thank you everyone, and I hope you have a really good day.